Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone out there on this beautiful Saturday morning. We are so happy that you could join us this morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I see we have Peggy out there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. But we are super excited to be back. As you can see, it's me and my girlfriends. We have first up there in the corner, Miss Carol Crockett, all the way from Dallas, Texas.
Hello, hello.
And then down on the bottom under me, Miss Anita Cummings, all the way from Thomson, Georgia. And
great morning, everyone.
And all the way over in those beautiful waters of Nassau, Bahamas, is Anastasia Smith.
Good morning, everyone.
All right, Anita, I don't see no people on here. My people know?
I think so, they do.
Okay. All right.
Maybe they're sleeping in today, huh?
Nah.
Nah.
No, sis, don't play that. She don't sleep in.
She knows.
Yeah. So we are so happy to be back, because you know we only come once each quarter. So we have not been here since September. So we are super excited to be back this morning. And our topic this morning comes from educate. It's all about education. And I don't know where my backdraft coming from. It's all about education. Before you have three excellent educators. When I say excellent, I mean top of the line educators. So anything dealing with education, they are on top of it. But there are so many different facets of education that we had to narrow it down. So this morning, we are going to talk about something that is very prevalent today, and it has been increasing. I believe my statistics says is 1 in every 54 children that has this condition. Yes, autism now affects 1 in 54 children. So we are talking about autism this morning. And we have Anastasia Smith that is going to be leading us. And I just talked them up. Good morning, Tamika, and good morning, Agnes. I was wondering where y'all were. Well, so if everybody can turn your volume down so we won't get backdraft going out. But Anita, Anastasia is going to be leading us in the conversation this morning. So Anastasia, if you can take us away.
Well, good morning this morning again. And like Ms. Deborah said, it is an increasing, I don't want to say problem, but it is an increasing situation that's happening amongst families and amongst educators. And it seems that there is a stigma attached to it. And before we get into that part of it, I'd like for us to go around the room and to say what autism or autism spectrum disorder looks like to you. What is it that you think of when you hear that a child is somewhere on the spectrum? Miss Carol, can we start out with you? You're muted.
So, good morning. I am so sorry I was muted, but you're absolutely right. This, like you said, it's not just like a problem, but from what I can understand is initially there are some characteristics that I thought that would be where we could see kids from the outside. And the only thing I noticed is that sometimes they are not very verbal. They're nonverbal kind of children. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, and nonverbal, and that some I heard can be even more, let's see, that show more behavioral issues than others, but not all of them. And so some don't do show a lot of eye contact, and then socially kind of not connected with people, if that's kind of what social, their socialization is a little bit different. And I think that makes sometimes parents and people a little bit have that stigma, because they don't want their kids not to be identified, because they don't want so they won't be not accepted in a sense.
You're right. You are right. When you say that there are different things that present, some of them, they are very verbal. I have 3 autistic children that are close to me, and one of them is not very verbal, but the other 2, listen to me. If you give them a topic that they are interested in, they will go.
Really?
One of them was interested in plants for a while. And his parents are the type that they will feed into his interests. And so all of a sudden I came over one day and there were just a lot of potted plants all over the place.
Wow.
And he was able to give me their scientific name. He tells me what they do, how often you should feed them, all of it. And so it is truly a spectrum. And then the ones that are socially awkward, that would usually be associated with Asperger's syndrome, where they're not able to give you that eye contact, or even if you ask them something, they're not speaking to you directly. They'll look off to the side, or, things like that. They don't know how to express their emotions very well. There's so much that comes along with it. Miss Anita, what has been your experience, or your interpretation of what is autism spectrum disorder?
Good morning again to everyone. When I think about it, I think about the word spectrum. And anytime you think about the word spectrum, you know that it can range from the lower end to the upper end. And it looks different for different individuals. I think about the commercial. I think about Toni Braxton and that commercial, because she has came public, and not only Toni Braxton, but when you think about that commercial, it tells you that no one is really exempt from having a child with autism, or knowing somebody with autism. I also think about the repetition that some of these children do, that I have found absolutely amazing. I think, and I'm so glad that you stated that, let's not think about it as a problem, because they are such a blessing. I think that they are absolutely amazing with the knowledge that is instilled in them, that they bring out. As I was doing just a little bit of research when we decided that we were going to do autism, listen to this list of individuals that we have gone back to do research, and we think that they had some autism. Think about all these brilliant individuals. Albert Einstein, Emily Dickinson, the great poet. How about Bill Gates? When you
Oh,
think
wow.
about all these people, Sir Isaac Newton, Jerry Steinfeld from Steinfeld, Albert Hitchcock, Beethoven, Henry Ford. So that's why we need to know that even though they have this label, this title, autism, greatness is still in them. So for autism, it comes in many colors, just like the spectrum. And just like a spectrum is absolutely beautiful and brilliant, if we look at autism through a different lens, we can see it as beautiful and brilliant. And I think my number one pet peeve is let's not be in denial.
Yeah.
Let's know the symptoms so we can get interventions early, so we can coach, teach those we love that have autism how to live in this world successfully.
That is so good. To know that, like you said, that spectrum, because sometimes people are labeled. And just thank you, Anita, for that, because that just goes to show, because I asked a friend who's a teacher now, and she mentioned that sometimes the children are not able to live independently, on their own. So I'm so happy that you brought out those people who are functioning people with it. And like you said, it's a spectrum. And so we are able to look at it from a different perspective. So this is a great topic. I just want to interject that.
Miss Deborah, what do you think about it? What has been your experience with persons on the spectrum? How would you define it?
You're muted.
I apologize. I was trying to keep down the background noise. Good morning again. I personally have not experienced a lot that I was aware, because, I work in the children's ministry, so you would think that I would be aware of a lot. However, a lot of parents are reluctant to tell you that their child may have autism. So we work like in a blind spot. So we'll see a child and they may be quiet, or they may speak out a lot, and we have no idea why, because the parents or grandparents, whoever bringing them, does not share that information. But I, can say I worked with a gentleman for years, and his daughter is autistic, and he was the one that gave me a lot of the information that I'm aware of today as far as autism. And one of the things that he told me is that usually a child with autism, there is something, what should I say, one of their skills or I say talents that God, he gives us all talents or whatever, that they are very, very good in something. So his little girl, by the time she was like 2 or 3, she would just get on the computer and she could do all types of things. So where she had a problem speaking, where maybe people could understand her, she was just brilliant on the computer. So that's something that I've been told. And as I was doing some research last night, I read a story where this lady was saying that a child that she was familiar with, he had a fascination with washing machines. And you say a lot of people will, say, well, washing machine, and try to keep the child away from that. That's just odd. Why would I allow my child, even though they have autism, gravitate to the washing machine? But his mom, she was different. If that was what, gave him interest, and, he was fascinated about it, she would, allow him to do that, because he would like to put his hand on it, get the feel of it, try to see how it worked and everything. To make a long story short, he went to a regular public school, and he's getting ready to graduate, but he is into mechanics of different things. So he kept with that, after he figured out the washing machine, then he went to other appliances and different things, but just to find out how they work, he could repair them or whatever. So I guess it's whatever interest they have. And, I'm not an expert, that, they are really, really good in that. And you just have to allow them to do them. You can't control them. Like sometimes you have a child and they may not be good in math. And that's all you do is you just beat them over the head with math instead of they're brilliant in spelling to, work on that. So I would say it's kind of like the same thing.
Miss Deborah, I agree with you totally. And I think that is the last point that you made about, being good in one area and not so good in another. That's something that we need to look at on a everyday basis, on a regular basis, not just in these types of situations, because, we're going to have kids just normally who are interested in one thing and they're not interested so much in another. They may need the other, but they don't understand the importance of it. And so we have to try and flourish and encourage, the areas that they do have interest in and tie in the other one a little bit to try and get them on board. But, trying to force these kids to do anything these days, that right there is a huge fight. I don't know how it is for y'all, but I know it's a huge fight on our end. But let's look at, and Ms. Deborah, you also made another interesting point where you said that in children's ministry, a lot of persons will not tell you, even if they've identified it themselves, they will not tell you that their children are somewhere on the spectrum. And so I guess we can look at it from a children's ministry point of view and also in schools themselves, because I had a situation even this year where the teacher brought it to me that there's something going on with the child. And so when we get together with the parents and we're having the conversation, then the parent tells us, oh yeah, we have an appointment set, it's in December, and they're going to do some tests and things like that, but you haven't said anything to us yet. You yourself have identified it before we brought it to you, but you still haven't said, okay, or asked the question, how is he in school? Is he doing this at school? Because this is what he's doing at home. And, we're trying to sort some things out. There's a lot of conversations that need to be had. So what do you feel would be some things for a person to look out for in a school environment or in a children's church environment? There are some behaviors, that you can look out for. I know that for myself, the nonverbal is an important one. That one is usually a sign of a child that is further up on the spectrum, and they would not be considered a mild case, because it's not just a matter of understanding. Sometimes it's not just a matter of communication, it's also a matter of understanding a lot of times when you find that they are nonverbal. But other things, can you give us some other things, that other character traits?
May I say something? And Deborah talked about, I experienced more of this in children's church. And one of our good friends on this platform, or had been on the platform, is Jocelyn. And she gave me the okay to share this. But when she first brought her daughter, Irene, Noreen, we love Noreen, and she is autistic. But Jocelyn let us know in children's church, and that was huge for us. But at that time, we had never, even in teaching, I had never experienced, or at that time, they had not identified children who were autistic and done very much on it. But when Jocelyn brought Noreen to us, she was in our children, so that she was under the 3rd, 4th grade, I think it was. But that really helped us to be able to know how to begin to work with Irene. When she first came, we kind of watched her a little bit, because she would go to the bathroom, and so it was for her safety. But from that point to now, Noreen is just, I mean, she's just gone on, and she's in the teenage group. And so she is doing so well. And so what Jocelyn shared, that I totally agree. She said Noreen has that sense that she can determine where there's safety. And she said, who's in charge? And so we had all gone out to lunch after one of our little walks with Coach Ricardo. And we were all sitting down eating, and Noreen decided she didn't want to sit with her mother and her grandmother. So she sat at the table with us, but Miss Billy was at that table. And I know Miss Billy kind of was in charge of the walk that day. So Noreen sat next to Miss Billy and all of us, and she was just fine. And so Jocelyn said that there are sometimes she don't want to be bothered, but she can sense safety and who's in charge. And she said, so she just tends to have that little insight and that little discernment where she knows where she feels safe, and she can pick up on who's not connected to her. Because for a while,
Right.
I would hug her and she like pull away, but now she'll come up and hug me, and so you can see some of that where she's feeling safe with other people. So anyway, it's just been a joy to watch Noreen as she grows and continues to grow. So that was my first encounter with someone that really her mother had identified, and we had began to adjust how we did children's church. And so she'll stand by herself when it's praise and worship, but she'll be over there just worshiping. But she, she's okay being where she is. And then if she feels safe, she'll come with those other people. So anyway, thank you for letting me share that. But it's so exciting to see her and have that personal connection with her. And like you said, it's not a problem. She's a brilliant young lady, and just to see her grow into who she is really such a blessing to see that.
Miss Carol, I am smiling at your story because it reminds me of when I was with one of my kids, and his parents were fortunate enough to identify early. They were one of those that asked a lot of questions, and they were like, okay, I noticed that he doesn't do this and he doesn't do that. And they were asking me because, I've been around a lot of children in the age group, and they're like, I noticed that he's not doing this and he's not doing that. Is that typical? Is that normal? I said, no, it's not, but it could be a developmental delay more so than anything more severe. So we continued to watch it for a while. And, his pediatrician was actually the one to tell them, okay, there are some milestones that haven't been hit yet. They should have been hit by now. So, the process began. But I had him with me one day, and it was a crowded space. And so he was overly stimulated, and he was tired. He needed a nap, but it was just entirely too much going on for him to actually calm down and rest. And so I took him outside, and I'm coddling him, and I'm trying to tell him, okay, you need to take a rest. You got to settle down. And he's like, why are you angry with me? I said, but I'm not angry with you. Yes, you are. Your face is doing this. He won the battle. There was no more naps after that. We had to go back inside and just continue on with everyone else. And I just let him roam free and burn off the energy. And then he slept later. He won. How do you fight against something like that? Because his therapist had started teaching him about facial expressions. And when someone is happy, they smile. And when someone is sad, they cry, and all of this. And it just shows the importance of early detection. You cannot be in denial. So, there are a lot of different signs and things that you can look for in kids. When I have a student who it's been 4 months and she has yet to tell her parents bye. Like, she's young, so, she still has time. But even if it's just speech or developmental delay, not acknowledging that there is something is actually more harmful than it does any good. So, Miss Deborah or Miss Anita, do you want to give us any of your encounters? Because I know that we were trying to get into, the identifying traits, but it is our experiences with children of and young adults and even adults
Right.
that are experiencing this and living this that help us to grow. So,
Mm-hmm.
have you guys had any encounters that you would like to share with us?
I also enjoyed the stories that both of you just shared. I think the one thing that really, well, let me say this before I tell you the one thing that I'm really fascinated by. I do think that we need to look, watch, observe,
Mm-hmm.
and again, not be in denial.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think that we can just take it as an overlook or oversight or think that it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
But there are so many resources and
Mm-hmm.
charts out there that tells us by this age we should see these things. By 6 months we should be witnessing these things. So when
Mm-hmm.
we don't see those things in our children or in children that we are close to,
Right.
that red flag should go up,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to take action. Again, I think early detection
Mm-hmm.
is key so that we can get those interventions started as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
What fascinates me most are those who are fixed on one thing. I had a student once who would just say the Pledge of Allegiance over and over
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
over. And I actually believe he knew what the seventh word was, what the 31st word was. He knew that Pledge of Allegiance. And to a different level, when
Mhm.
kids can just look at a vehicle and tell you that's an 82 Chrysler, that's a 97 Toyota. I mean, just out of the blue, they know the year and the make of an automobile. I'm doing good to tell you, I think it's a Toyota. It looks like a Honda, but they can tell you so many specifics. I don't really know where that comes from, but I know that I am totally fascinated by it when they are fixed on one thing and they are truly an expert in that area.
Miss Anita, your story reminds me of a movie actually, and I did not notice it until you said it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the movie Jurassic World.
No, I
There
haven't.
was a scene in the movie where the two brothers were lost in the forest and they were trying to find their way through, and they found one of the old buildings of Jurassic Park. And as soon as they walked up to the vehicle, I've watched the movie a lot of times, you've got to forgive me. As soon as they walked up to the vehicle, he says, Jeep Wrangler 92 sand beige. And I'm like, I never realized because, his in the movie, his brother referenced that, oh, you're supposed to be the genius and all the rest of that, you know everything. And it is actually a trait. They did actually feature someone that was on the spectrum in the movie, and I did as many times as I've seen it. I consider myself a little bit of a, Jurassic World and Marvel scholar, and I did not put those two pieces together until you said it.
Wow.
But that is amazing. It gives a little bit of inclusivity as
Mm-hmm.
the world is
Mm-hmm.
so bent on
Mm-hmm.
right now. We have to make sure that everyone is included and everyone has a part and everyone's voice is heard.
Mm-hmm.
And that little pinch right there. I'm, I'm sure there is someone that was in that movie theater or watching it at home and was like, "Hey, yeah, there I am, there I am." Oh, Miss Deborah, have you had any encounters that you want to share?
I'm trying to think. I can't really think of anything, but I did want to let our guests know that we want to hear from you as well. If you have
Mm-hmm.
something that you want to comment on or whatever, please put it in the chat. We'll be glad to put it up or comment on it. Please share. And You might be saying this morning, well, I thought this platform, yes, this platform is to assist people in overcoming obstacles. And I believe it is better to train early rather than to try to fix later. So that is why this is an excellent topic for us this morning, because we are going early and we are talking about something that hit, what did we say? Now 1 in 55 children. So it is better for everyone to know that this is going on, it's prevalent, what to look for. So this is an excellent topic for these educators this morning and for you out there. And Anastasia, you are doing an excellent job. I love it. This is a great conversation. But I cannot think of, well, I can. And you know, like I said earlier, people don't tell you, so you don't know what's going on. There was a young man, and I just thought, oh, he just quiet. He won't talk. And you try to get him to talk, and he wouldn't talk. And so then, you know, you begin to, you know, it's only natural. You begin to assume. You know what happens when you assume. But you think, okay, so he just doesn't want to talk, or, you know, he's slow in development or whatever, because nobody said anything, you don't know. But, you know, always included him and, you know, talk with him and whatever. But so for some reason, he connected with me. So he began to open up, and then he began to talk and share, and he was doing the lesson. And then I found out like 2 years later, oh, he has autism. You know, so it is important, parents. I don't take it as anything that, that's just like letting me know your child has asthma, because I need to know if they're going to be with me. You know, whatever they have. If they had a fever, if they had came and they had a fever that morning, I would tell you to take them back.
Right.
But if something is going on with your child, we need to know. So, you know, in previous times, had I known that, you know, you know, maybe I needed to send someone to get specialized training so that we could be there and be all that we could be for him. So he could get as much as he could out of the children's church. So, I mean, I'm not sure why that, you know, you parents are reluctant to share that information, but it is so important for not only children's church, but wherever your child will be, for them to know.
Yeah. Miss Deborah, you hit on. Go ahead,
think parents are a little hesitant about sharing information, because we don't want our children treated differently in a bad or negative way. It's okay if they're going to be treated differently in a good, positive way.
Right.
But we don't want to share that information and then take the risk of our child being isolated.
Right.
Simply because we don't know what to do. We don't know how to do. So, and we definitely do not want to do the wrong thing when it comes to intervening with children with autism. Something that I think is also important, Anastasia, and you might can touch on this, being that there's, and I know you're going to talk about ways to identify children with autism, but to my knowledge, it doesn't show up in blood work or anything like that. It's mainly just observations. So we don't want to misdiagnose, but we do want to diagnose early. So that can still be a thin line between identifying those who truly are somewhere on the spectrum and those who might have another issue going on.
And
you are so right.
Right.
Now go ahead, Miss Carol.
No, and I'm so grateful that Jocelyn is one of those parents who don't mind sharing her story, and she's very open about it. And you know, because she said that the early diagnosis was the best thing that could have happened. She said because she could notice there were some developmental issues going on with her baby, like at 2 or 3 years old. So she actually said that the school or no one else picked up on it, but she did. And so she started putting those things, you know, lining up things and getting the school involved and the diagnosticians and all those things. But like you're saying, Anita, some people don't want to do that because they're afraid of the isolation. But I just think how important it is that people know and understand where that child is. And for those especially who are educators and church people, that it caused us to begin to look a little bit more deeper into the things that we didn't know, so we wouldn't make her feel different, so we could make her be included. And so I think that I think as parents we have to think about the child's best interest. How he may not be socially accepted in every realm or every circle, but neither of any of us accepted in every circle. But to be able to educate those about your child so that they will understand, like you said, that if their characteristics are a little bit different, so people will know how to work with that child. And so I just think it's so important that as parents, we have to be realistic about what's going on. We have to face it, because if we look at each one of us, there's something very different about each one of us, but we have to learn how to be accepted in our circles that we're going to be accepted in, and to be okay with who we are, and not feel like everybody's going to isolate. Somebody will accept that child and be willing to help and love and care for them too. So that's kind of what I just pray that this message going out will help others who are reluctant about identifying and looking at those characteristics and not brushing it off and thinking, oh, they're just in a stage. And just be real. We have to be realistic about where our babies are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we definitely do. There are so many things that were brought up in just that last 10 minutes that it's just crazy, because, especially with me dealing with preschool
Mm-hmm.
for such a long time, I've seen a lot of different types of kids come through.
Mm-hmm.
And because our school goes through to primary and
Mm-hmm.
now to high school, I've been able to see a lot of kids that displayed certain characteristics at a young age grow into their preteens and things like that. And some of them go on into teenage life. And
So it's been very interesting watching the growth and transition. Now, with what Miss Anita said about identifying early and the stigma that's attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Bahamas, our physicians actually tell our parents, they try to encourage them to have their kids placed in a normal school setting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I understand the reasoning behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult actually, no, it's easy for a child that is on the spectrum to pick up the habit of another child that is on the spectrum.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So when they are in an environment with other children that are on the spectrum, they can sometimes pick up a
Mm-hmm.
behavior.
We can't hear you.
I had a call that was coming through. You can hear me now?
Yes.
I have it on Do Not Disturb. I don't know why they're disturbing me. But they will pick up a characteristic that is not their own. And so sometimes it will throw off their treatment, because you're not only now treating them, because, some of them, their characteristic early is hitting their head.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they're trying, we've had a child who, when he's trying to nap, that is what he does. When it's rest time, that is what he does. He will bang himself to sleep. And they had to start sending the little foam hat and everything. And we knew that at a time when it was time to rest, because he didn't want to, he didn't want to do it. And so that's why he responded in that way. Mm-hmm. Or if it is that he was becoming frustrated with something that's happening in the room, mm-hmm. that's what he would do. That was his response. Mm-hmm. And so, we would like for them to be more forthcoming with the information. But then, like in our case here, we have the physicians telling them that, try to keep them in as normalized an environment as possible so that they don't pick up the behaviors of another child.
Mm-hmm.
And that they would, because they are in a setting with children of their own age,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what they're getting to see. They're getting to see the normalized behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, that will be what they mimic. And so that is one thing with, the parents not wanting to say, is because, they're trying to keep them in an environment that will teach them normal routine behaviors rather than an environment of other kids that are a whole different range on the spectrum and doing all sorts of other character traits,
Mm-hmm.
and displaying their disability in different ways for them to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
But then also it still goes to what Ms. Carroll said, because if it is that it's identified by the instructor, by the person in authority early enough, we'll know how to handle them.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had a child who he used to eat rocks, and he used to carry like toothbrushes around. He'll collect toothbrushes, or he'll collect pencils. He'll eat crayons, those type of things. That is a more severe case. That's a child that cannot be in a normalized environment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you are actually disruptive to the environment because he was nonverbal. And so he could not express himself. When he couldn't express himself for a particular thing, he was absolutely frustrated and have outbursts and things like that. We need to know.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to let us know. We are going to we won't look at them through rose-colored glasses. We'll know how to take those glasses off and see what is actually in front of us,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to deal with it appropriately. But I know that y'all don't really spank over there, but we definitely spank here in the Bahamas. It's not considered
For real? Wow.
Bruises.
nobody's kids or anything like that, That's what we say. I don't quote me on it, but we are a spanking country. And so, someone else that, would not be able to see it, hear it, know it regularly to be able to identify it. The first resort would be, oh, you're just being rude. You're just misbehaving.
Mm-hmm.
And, then would come a punishment behind that. And it's not the way to deal with it. It's not how to handle those type of things. So let's get into
May I ask you
yes
a question, before we go into that, Anastasia, you just bring up so many great things for us to think about. But how do you, and I think here there may be some totally isolated situations in the classroom, but I think they still try to mainstream them somewhat. Is that right, Anita? And somewhat into the classroom. But I guess my question would be, how do you separate the ones who are really on that brilliant end and really is really a behavioral problem? So how do you know the difference between when it's gone into like regular behavior issues, defiant, just want to, the temper tantrums too. I've heard that has happened. So can you shed a little bit of light on that? Because someone has had a situation like that with their child, and the school just identified and knew his condition, but also just focused so much on the behavioral part, and it really has become an issue for that family. So any insights on that?
So the normal thing, first of all, is the communication of it.
Okay.
To identify and say, okay, this is what it is and this is what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
The school itself has that choice. Well, the school itself has that choice to say, okay, this is something that we can deal with, and this is something that, these are the things that we can't deal with. because we have had children that we were aware that they had different needs within our school system, and we've still kept them because it was not a danger to anyone else and it did not interrupt anyone else's learning process. Those are the two things that an institution would be looking at.
Okay.
As long as the child is not disruptive to the other students' learning process and they are not physically putting anybody else at risk, then we would make the consideration to allow the child to still be with us and to try and carry on as long as we're able to house them. Because, we are an ABECA school. And so the ABECA is a very phonetically strong curriculum. We do a lot of phonetics, reading and things like that from early. And so if it is that it becomes to a point of just babysitting, then we no longer have anything to offer your child because we can't it wouldn't even be in good conscience for us to collect a school fee from you, knowing that the child is just getting older and not able to get anything out of the program. So that would be on the parent end to say that, okay, now the child is at an age and to a point where the school is no longer able to serve them. And so they will need that specialized environment. They're old enough to handle it. They're mature enough in their own disorder to be able to handle a different environment. After they've already gone through, those little preschool years and things like that, where everybody's just playing around and acting as the entire fool, So when they've gotten older, the parent would then make that decision to say that, okay, the school is no longer serving their purpose because we can't just babysit. But on the school's end of it, as long as the child is not a danger to themselves or others, or they're not, hindering someone else's process, we would usually continue on with them.
Well, I can't wait to hear Miss Anita's resources for later on. So I'm got my pencil ready for it.
I think it's a good place here to add a kudos and a great big thank you to all of our special needs, special resource teachers who specialize in those areas, who continue to keep up, continue to go back, to continue to stay abreast of the latest, whether it's technology interventions, whatever it is. Those individuals who have a passion for teaching our children with those special needs, we definitely thank you and we salute you. So good job to our teachers.
Yes.
So we do need to get into the resources available.
Can I say one thing before we get there? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. This just popped up and I want to get this out. But, a lot of times, regardless of the circumstance, sometimes people intervene where they shouldn't. And that could be, a personal, an adult type situation. But as far as people and their children, children in restaurants and the child begins to cry, they fall on the floor and the parent just sits there, they don't do anything. And the first thing, the person wants to say is, why don't she do something with that child? She just sitting there and that child's doing blah, 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 blah. Sometimes you need to just focus on what you're doing and let them be over there. Because I was in the doctor's office, and this was probably about 7 years ago. And it was like a family atmosphere. So they had all ages. And it was a little boy and his sister and his mom there. Well, this lady comes in and she had a tablet. And so at first she was on the tablet, and I guess the little boy showed interest. And she was gonna she told him that he couldn't hold a tablet because he didn't know how to act or something. So of course, then he started to cry. Well, she takes the tablet and she gives it to his sister. Well, I'm gonna let her play with it because she knows how to do it. And he was just crying. And then, and so then this is a lady that came in, not the mom now. And so then she says, you need to learn how to act. Now you sit there and you do this and you do that. And she just went on and on with this little boy. So I'm just sitting there and I'm just watching them. And the mom, she didn't say a word. And the little boy, he was just really, he would get more upset. And the more upset he became, the more she was going to control this little boy. Well, finally, the nurse comes out in the waiting room, and I forget his name, and she said something to him, and she touched him on his arm and rubbed his arm, and she took him in the back. Well, when she took him in the back, the mom said, I'm sorry, but he has autism. And I'm like, your child has autism, first of all, and you sit there and let that lady handle him like that? When she had no business handling your child in the first place, whether he had autism or not. But to me, she was mishandling him, even if, he didn't have a special need or anything. But people need to mind their own business, Because, you don't know what you were doing to him by treating him that way. And that was just wrong. So, when you don't know what's going on, stop trying to judge people all the time. Just sit back, relax, have your coffee, eat your meal, and go on about your business. I just had to get that out.
Oh, definitely. I can see by the smiles on this screen that you definitely have some support on here. Because it is needed. Like sometimes you just need a break. Just regularly, like my kids, I only have two, but they're close in age. And so both of them were toddlers at the same time. And I am not the type to just let them run around and act a fool or whatever. But I do know the mental strain that comes along when you have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and both of them need your attention, and everybody wants a certain thing, and you got to go this way and that way and the next way. And sometimes you just need a break, and that's just regular experiences. And so for someone who has a child that has some sort of disorder, and what we do need to do is establish community for these persons, because a lot of times the way that you would drop off to your mom and be like, hey, I'm going to the movies, watch Pookie for me, you would drop off to the neighbor, or you would call someone over. I know sometimes you'll call a babysitting service or something like that, and you would be able to do that freely. These persons don't get a break. Their community of persons that they are able to call on and be able to say that they can go and enjoy themselves and not have to be in the back of their mind, oh my goodness, what is he doing? What is she doing? What is happening right now? I know it's 8 o'clock, and so usually the routine is this, that, and the next, for them to be able to just put it down and engage fully into another activity. It's not as easily done as it is for the rest of us, even as parents, or in my situation where they're close together, or persons who have multiple sets of kids and things. It is not easy. The community is not as big. So, as Miss Deborah said, mind your business. If you're not going to be a help, then you're only hurting the situation. I had a young boy that was in church one time, and I don't know, for some strange reason, he just wanted to play with me. And I'm sure y'all have had these kids before. And he just was fascinated with my dress, and he just, as much as his mom tried to hold on to him, he just insisted he wanted to be my friend for the day. So we were friends for the day, and it's okay. And she got to enjoy the service, and I was a little bit distracted, but it was a fun distraction. And I was still able to get what I needed too. And, like, if you're not adding to the situation positively, then just leave it alone. Keep your hands off of it, because you don't know what that person is going through. You don't know the background of their story and situation. So you got to approach each one cautiously. And if you can't do that, don't approach it.
Yeah.
Just leave it over there.
And
So we are
no,
go ahead, Miss Cara.
No,
No,
I
no,
just
go
want to
ahead.
add this, and I know we got to move on to these other things that we need to that we're going to get for us being able to help. But like you say, stay in your lane, mind your business. But like you said, Anastasia, the community is so small for these parents as well, and they do need a break. And so if we could just consider that, and not only is the community small for the child, but also for the family, because I was told that even sometimes invitations are not given to people because of their child. So that's something we might need to think of. Like you said, if we need breaks from our kids who are supposed to be just normal, can you imagine that how they just need a day or just a minute to just breathe and not have to be so worried about it. So anyway, thank you for letting me share that little part. That was just a burning thing in my spirit.
But we are going to get into the resources available. I know that here, our steps to take would be, if you're going through the government, our resources are limited. Our avenues are limited. Usually, they would not check a child for a speech situation until after the child is 3. They would not check a child for behavioral or possibly spectrum related things until after they are 5, which is late, to say the least. It is late. If you are, you, and then our steps would be for the school to make a recommendation that this child needs to be observed or this child needs to be evaluated. And that is an application is made after the reference is done. An application is made to the Ministry of Education, and then they set you up with the different types of therapists, and then you go from there. They determine what levels you're at, what it is that you need. And our schools here, they are not government-wise public schools. They are not specific to any of the disorders or anything like that. But what they have done is they have units within different schools. And so there would be a specialized teacher on the compound of the primary school, the high school, that during teaching times they would deal with those children. And then during break time, lunchtime, things like that, before and after school, the children are allowed to interact with their peers. And so that has been like kind of a hybrid system to ensure that they are still getting what it is that they need specifically, and also trying to keep them as normalized as possible and exposing them to the normalized behaviors. Now, as far as private schools go, where you're going to pay quite a significant amount of money for it, the physician can make a recommendation. And that can happen from as early as 1 year old and 2 years old and stuff like that. As soon as they start missing those milestones, or if they start to see them flapping, that would be considered flapping. If they have floppy wrists and things like that, they're flapping, or a lot of times children that are on the spectrum, they will have sensory things, and so they don't want the tags of the shirt rubbing on them, or if you'll know that they eat a certain set of things. You're not going to get them to eat every and anything from every and anywhere. That's an absolute no, because of how it feels in their mouth, or how it tastes to them, or in picking it up, how it feels and things like that. And so when that type of discussion is happening with the child's personal doctor, then they would be able to say, okay, this is not typical behavior, and then they can start their evaluations from there. And we have a place called the Seahorse Institute that does those type of evaluations to let you know, and they offer the speech therapist and the physical therapist to try and build their gross motor skills and all the rest of that other stuff if you're going through private, and we have a school also, Glenwood Academy, that, if you're going private. So for you guys in your different states, your different school systems, what resources would be available, or what would be the steps that would need to be taken for it to be identified and then properly managed? Because I know you guys' health system is different from ours, and I will say much better. I don't care which Bahamian gets mad at me for saying it. That's your business. If you're being honest with yourself, you know that it's true. The U.S. health system is much better, and they are more forthcoming with assistance for things like this. So can you ladies let someone that's listening know, what would be the steps to take in identifying or gaining assistance with a situation like this? Miss
I
Anita?
think, yeah, I think probably each state Department of Education, you start there and you have guidelines, and that narrows it down onto each district and maybe each county. So I'm not sure what takes place in every district or every county.
Yeah.
So I can
Yeah.
only speak from my experiences. And I
Mhm.
do believe that leadership, whether it's from the Department of Education from your state to your district, where it's the superintendent, to your lead teachers who are the special need teachers, the Department of the Special Education Department, those certified, classified teachers, all of those components. But to me, the main component is still the parent. The parent must be willing to take observations, to release that information so that the parent, the school, everybody can get on the same page. So the best interventions can take place early, identified, and they can take place early. Wonderful, wonderful special education teachers. Again, they're the key. Observations, documentations, communications. I
Oh,
don't think it's a one size fit all. I don't think it's a magic bullet. I think the conversation needs to start, and we need to definitely be at the table when the conversation take place. This is a great time for school, home, community to connect, because I keep hearing that the parents of these children, they do need a break. And if we had that established community, can you just imagine what it would look like if school, home, community came together to support all of our children with autism?
can I hear you, Miss Carol?
Sorry. Just ditto to what Miss Anita has said too, because
Mm-hmm.
it does start, in Texas, we do have that same kind of thing where it's part of the educational part. But the parents sometimes are like, they're the first responders if they see something different. But once they get in school, and if the teachers or someone identifies something, they do have what they call a process. And so it does include diagnosticians, teachers, and of course the parents. And so when they identify some of the disabilities, then they put those kids on, I think they call an individual educational plan, an IEP, where they are supposed to take all that into consideration. But I know in Texas, it's serious business if we don't, teachers and administrators and don't take that kid's disability seriously. And so then they have another thing called DARS, where they work with the kids and see, whatever the disabilities are, see if there's levels of progress that they may can opt out of the program as they get older. But then, of course, if not, they set up other avenues where the kids will be able to continue continue to know their disabilities, and the parents will have some other avenues. But like Anita said, it takes the whole community. It takes all of us. It takes parents being involved, and sometimes it takes parents fighting for their children to be able to get the necessary things that the state has already provided for them. But if you sit back and don't push, it takes, you got to be assertive about your own child and not be afraid to ask or to make sure that the plan that's been put forth, that everybody agreed upon when they sit down with those kids and evaluate them. If this is what we agree, that Johnny needs to be in this level math and he needs some one-on-one in that one, everybody has to be on board as far as the best interest for that particular child. So,
and you're right, Carol. Indeed, it is serious business. It's so serious that there are many court cases that have taken place because individuals forgot, teachers included,
exactly,
that it's a serious matter. So anytime, I advise strongly, anytime that you're a part of any team, the IEP team, any team, and you sign on that dotted line stating that those interventions will be implemented and the duration that they will be implemented, then that definitely needs to take place. Read, know what you're signing, and then carry through with what you agreed to do.
And don't throw away your paperwork each year. You know, you need
that documentation.
Keep that documentation. That is important. So yes, it is. But
Miss Carol, I wish that you could repeat that again for the teachers that I work with. I don't think that they understand the importance of it, because, you know, when you're able to say, okay, I met with this parent on March 5th, and I told them that the child did this, that, and the next. And it's not even about, well, for us, it's not about every single entire detail. But if you're able to recall a date or the dates that something has happened, and you're able to look back and say, okay, you know what? This is a pattern. Even with something as simple as an attendance record.
Exactly.
You're able to look back and say, hold on, Johnny is always absent on Fridays. What is so special about Fridays? He's always absent. And it turns out that's the parents' usual day off. And so they decide to keep Johnny home every Friday just so that they don't have to drive in traffic. That being able to look back and documenting things, it gives you a pattern. Because when you're thinking to yourself that, oh, no, it's just every once in a while that this happens. If you're able to look back at it, then you're able to say, hold on, this is, it's happening more regularly than I thought, or it's happening after he comes from by his dad's house. I noticed that this is the particular behavior, or, you know, whenever he comes off of vacation from by his grandma, this is the particular behavior, you know, like documenting things helps you to be able to establish a pattern. And then you would be able to present that pattern to say that, hold on, now, when you're having that parent, teacher, admin meeting, you're able to, okay, on the 5th, it was this, on the 12th, it was this. I noticed the bruise on him on the 14th, 18th, and 20th of June, July, and August. So, you know, you're able to present and bring back that certain information instead of just speculation of what your memory tells you. Because, you know, our memory fails us. No, I'm going to say, I was about to speak for myself and say, listen, my memory fails me regularly.
Yes.
I thought I did something. I thought I turned off the stove. I thought I brought my glasses with me.
Yeah, you're right.
I saw, Miss Deborah, you've put up a lot of numbers, person contact and things like that as far as assistance goes and resources. And so we would love for the persons that are listening, that are watching, you can chime in Give your comments in these last few minutes. Let us know what you thought about the talk. Give your contribution on your experience with one of these little darlings that are on the spectrum, and engage with us. But the other thing that we would love for you to do is to share this video.
Yes.
I am sure that there is someone that is able to take some information from it. There is someone that needs to know that they are not the only ones going through it. They are not the only ones that are experiencing and living this wholeheartedly, that there are persons that are not even living it, but they can empathize and sympathize and be a help, you know? Or there may be somebody that doesn't know very much about it, and they need to be educated, and they need to hear this conversation and know that, you know what, as Miss Deborah said, maybe I should mind my own business. Let me just mind my own business and let her go through her experience and just try to be a support instead of being such a criticizing person and being so hard at, why don't you get your kids under control? Why don't you let?
Right.
No. Sometimes that support is needed and that help is needed. And
Right.
someone may need to see this conversation so that they can take that away. That can be their takeaway from it.
Right.
But in our last few, Miss Deborah, is there anything else that you would like for us to touch on? Or is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience?
I don't have anything. We have shared a lot of information, gave good examples, resources. I think this was an excellent topic that we decided to share this morning. I love all the information. I surely learned a lot. So I appreciate what each of you have brought this morning to share with our fans out there listening. So I just hope everyone takes this information in, and like you said, share, because that's the only way we can get it out.
Right.
But Anita, Carol, do y'all have anything else you want to add?
No, ma'am.
No, I'm good. It's been a great conversation. And like you said, it's so much that if we just share the information, that's what I would just encourage everybody to do, because that's the only way we're going to get the message out to those who might be reluctant or those who still need some assistance. But no, I'm good.
Good. Thank you so much. And thank you, Anastasia, for leading us in this morning. Excellent job. Thank you. I like the teamwork.
Nothing like teamwork. Yes.
I love it. And y'all look so good this morning, ladies.
My Chucks and Pearls.
Hey,
Thank you, Miss Anita.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Anita.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Anita.
You are welcome.
All right. And before we go, one thing I do want to say to everyone, I will be taking a break next week, but before I go on break, Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, please tune in and please share with everyone that you know. We're going to have the gift that keeps on giving. It was supposed to be today, but that I moved it to Tuesday. And we're going to have some people on with some gifts that will make great Christmas gifts.
Ooh.
And they're gifts that last. So please tune in 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Tuesday, December 21st. And share. I will send you ladies the graphics so you can share for me. But please tune in. Books and educational things, those are things that last. A lot of times we buy gifts and people just put them on the shelf. They don't really like them. We don't know that we gift them, but give them something that'll last.
Right.
And I know we've been on a little longer than usual, so I'm not going to linger. But thank you, ladies. And if y'all found a minute, I know you have to go, Carol. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
You.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Bye-bye.
But always, as you travel on your road to being a better you, as you heard this morning, sometimes there will be pitfalls, rough terrain, detours. But don't let any negative aspects of your journey stop you. Though they may slow you down, keep going so you can be a better you and build your best life. And remember, building your best life is not a slogan. It's our commitment. I love you. Be blessed. Stay safe. Enjoy your holiday. If you're traveling, again, be safe. You know, we got some crazies out there. So be on the lookout. Always look around you. Be safe. Travel in pairs. Don't drive when you're tired. Love you. I'm looking forward to seeing you again real soon. So love you, love you, love you. Be safe.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
And I guess I don't want y'all to go.